Barrett, this game, Alabama-Ole Miss, is so interesting for so many reasons. You got quarterback controversy. Last weekend, you had a little bit of coaching controversy because of that quarterback controversy. All that, and Nick Saban has given the nod to Jalen Milroe. He's given it back, rather. He thinks they're his best bet. What do you think?
Well, yeah, he is, and he never should have been benched to begin with because the coaching staff just didn't give him a chance. They didn't call an offense that fits around his strengths. And so I think because of that, he's struggled. But I think more importantly, the offensive line has been a massive problem at Alabama for 2+ years now. And so when you put Tyler Buckner back there, when you put Ty Simpson back there, they're ineffective in the passing game to begin with. But if they're not getting protection up front, then it's really going to go south. We saw that against South Florida. So I think when you look at what they need to do moving forward, at least get the guy who's mobile in there in case the protection breakdowns, or should I say, when the protection breaks down, he can at least do something with his legs. But I'm most curious to see how Tommy Rees and how Nick Saban create a scheme towards Jalen Milroe, because like I said, they didn't give him a chance in the first 2 games. They were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Maybe they learned their lesson. If they didn't, then it's going to not be just a long game for Alabama, but a very long season.
Yeah, and if Bama does lose, it would be their first back-to-back home game stretch loss since Saban's first season back in 2007. So he's on a watch I'm sure he hasn't seen in a while. As for the Rebels, though, let's talk about them because they're averaging an SEC best 52.7 points per game. A lot of that because of their quarterback, Jackson Dart. A great name, by the way, and he's living up to the hype. How much does he impact the game for Ole Miss, especially when the stakes are so high against Alabama?
Well, yeah, he's huge. I mean, Nick Saban has struggled with mobile quarterbacks in the past, more so in a few years back rather than right now. But I think Jackson Dart, what he's been able to do on the ground, I think is important because he's been without a healthy Quinshon Judkins for essentially the entire season. So he's had to shoulder more of the load, and he's done it very well, and he's done it in critical situations for these Rebels. So I think Jackson Dart, if he gets a healthy Quinshon Judkins back, which Lane's kind of playing coy this week as to what his health status actually is. But, you know, Jackson's one of the top-tier quarterbacks in the country, not just the SEC. And there's no doubt Lane's going to have some tricks up his sleeve from an offensive standpoint. Jackson has made it click. I think the pressure he felt in the offseason, trying to win back his job with 2 other quarterbacks breathing down his neck, has really lit a spark under that. And not only him, but that entire offense. So he's a big part of this. And Alabama struggled a little bit in the secondary this year. Lane knows that. And so I think he's going to try to take advantage of it. And Jackson can spread the field deep. And he's done it this year, even without one of his best receivers, at least fully healthy throughout the course of the 3 games of the season. So Jackson's a big part of this. It's going to be exciting to see how Ole Miss and how Lane sets him up for success.
Yeah, it's been kind of sad not being able to see Quinshon Judkins. I covered him in high school, and he's such an explosive player, such a difference maker. So hopefully he's working through injuries. All right, though, let's talk about this matchup because, as I mentioned earlier, Alabama's the favorite. They've won 7 straight against the Rebels. But based on what we've seen out of these 2 programs this season, Barrett, how do you see it panning out on Saturday?
Well, the wrong team's favored. Ole Miss should be favored right now. And it's not necessarily a reaction to what Alabama does. It's just about the matchups. Like I said, Alabama's offensive line is a disaster. Ole Miss is high risk, high reward defensively. They're going to get after the quarterback, and they're going to get home. Because, I mean, South Florida did. We saw what Texas did. And so Jalen Milroe is going to have a lot of pressure in his face. But I think more importantly, and something that really isn't being discussed, is that this is a revenge game for Ole Miss defensive coordinator Pete Golding. He had the same role with Alabama for the last 5 years. Nick Saban doesn't fire assistants, but he will push them towards the door and say, hey, you see anything out there that might interest you? You should probably go take it. That's exactly what happened with Pete Golding. And I think more importantly, he knows Jalen Milroe, and he knows how to attack this offensive line. So I think Ole Miss will turn this game into a shootout. And if that happens, who do you trust? Do you trust Jalen Milroe or do you trust Jackson Dart? It's a pretty obvious answer based on what we've seen this year. So take the Rebs, take them straight up. I don't care about the points. They're going to win it outright.
All right. Not often we hear people voting against Bama, but here it is. Barrett Sallee with all of the answers. Barrett, thanks so much for your time. As we count down to kickoff between number 15 Ole Miss and number 13 Alabama. We've talked about it. Jalen Milroe will get the start against Jackson Dart. Certainly a fun matchup. It's all going down Saturday at 3:30 Eastern. You can catch it on CBS Sports or stream it on Paramount+.